Imagine the sound of 1,000,000 hammers striking in perfect, rhythmic unison. No confusion. No translation. Just one voice, echoing across the ancient plains of Shinar. You are standing at the base of a mountain made of brick and bitumen, staring up at a structure that does not just scrape the sky, it pierces it. According to ancient lore, this was the moment the heavens intervened, scattering humanity and scrambling our tongues. But what if the clouds never parted? What if the workers kept building, the mortar dried, and the Tower of Babel was actually completed? To understand this alternate world, we must first look at the sheer, terrifying power of absolute collaboration. In our timeline, progress is slow. It is a game of whispers played across oceans and centuries. A mathematical breakthrough in ancient India takes hundreds of years to reach Europe. A medical discovery in China is lost to the West for generations. Why? Because translation is a filter. It dilutes ideas. It slows us down. But in a world where the Tower of Babel stands finished, that filter does not exist. Imagine a global network of minds, operating on a single, universal operating system. The completion of the tower triggers an immediate, explosive scientific revolution. Without the friction of translation, engineering plans drawn in the East are instantly executed in the West. Philosophers, astronomers, and architects share a single, perfect vocabulary. They do not waste time arguing over the meaning of words. They build. By the year 1000 BC, humanity has already bypassed the Bronze Age, stepping directly into an early industrial era. Steam-powered engines chug along the Euphrates. Massive aqueducts, designed with flawless global mathematics, turn deserts into lush gardens. The tower itself becomes the ultimate monument to human triumph, a vertical city-state rising miles into the atmosphere, its peak perpetually shrouded in ice and clouds. It is beautiful. It is orderly. And it is a trap. Because here is the twist: a world with only one language is not a world of eternal peace. It is a pressure cooker. Think about how we define ourselves. In our history, we divided into tribes based on the tongues we spoke. We built walls to keep out those we could not understand. But if everyone speaks the same language, those external divisions vanish. New ones must take their place. In the shadow of the completed tower, humanity divides not by geography, but by height. The tower becomes the literal axis of the world. At the top, living in the clean, thin air closest to the heavens, resides the global elite. They are the architects, the high priests, the rulers who dictate the destiny of the planet. At the bottom, sprawling for hundreds of miles across the dusty plains, are the billions of laborers who feed the machine. They speak the same language as the elites, yes, but they do not share the same reality. And that is when the true nightmare of this timeline begins. The nightmare of absolute conformity. Linguists know that language does not just express thoughts, it shapes them. In our world, different languages offer different windows into the human experience. We have words for concepts that other cultures can barely grasp. This linguistic diversity is the bedrock of human creativity. It is why we have different styles of art, different systems of philosophy, and different ways of solving problems. But in a monolingual world, the collective human imagination is flattened. There is only one vocabulary for emotion, one syntax for governance, one approved narrative. Because everyone thinks in the same linguistic patterns, dissenting ideas are not just discouraged, they are literally unthinkable. The words to formulate a rebellion do not exist. Originality dies. Humanity becomes a biological superorganism, highly efficient, but completely devoid of soul. But human nature is a wild, unpredictable thing. It cannot be caged forever. And that is when the first cracks appear. Not in the bricks of the tower, but in the words themselves. As the centuries grind on, the empire expands to the ends of the earth. And with distance, comes drift. A word spoken in the cold, damp forests of the north begins to sound slightly different than the same word spoken in the baking southern sun. Slang develops. Pronunciations shift. It is a slow, quiet evolution. To the rulers at the summit of the tower, this linguistic drift is not natural. It is high treason. A mutated vowel is a sign of a mutated mind. To maintain their grip on the world, the elites launch a campaign of linguistic purification. Imagine a global secret police, patrolling the streets, listening. A misplaced accent, a regional idiom, or a newly invented word is met with swift, brutal execution. The tower, once built to unite humanity, is now a watchtower keeping the world in a state of terror. But you cannot police the human tongue. Deep in the subterranean slums of the outer provinces, a group of rebels decides to fight back. They realize that to break the empire, they must break its voice. They do not gather weapons. Instead, they do something far more dangerous. They invent a new language. It is a constructed tongue, designed with complex grammar and secret meanings, specifically built to lock the imperial rulers out of their conversations. It is the first time in human history that a true foreign language is spoken. And it spreads like a virus. For the first time, the rulers are blind. They cannot understand the whispers in the alleys. They cannot read the graffiti on the walls. The illusion of absolute control shatters. The empire fractures along the lines of this secret tongue. Other provinces, inspired by the rebellion, begin creating their own languages as symbols of independence. The world is suddenly flooded with a cacophony of new voices, each one a declaration of war against the tower. What follows is a global conflict unlike anything our history has ever seen. The Great Linguistic War. It is not fought for land, or gold, or crown. It is fought for the right to speak differently. The sky-piercing tower, the monument to human unity, becomes the ultimate target. Millions of soldiers, speaking dozens of newly minted languages, march on the plains of Shinar. The air is filled with a chaotic storm of battle cries that no one person can fully understand. The ground trembles. The massive brick foundations, built to last an eternity, are battered by the engines of a humanity desperate to be free of its own forced unity. And then, the tower falls. As the dust settles over the ruins of the greatest structure ever built, the survivors look at one another. They can no longer speak to each other. They can no longer understand each other's pain. They scatter into the wilderness, divided, confused, and free. In the end, we arrive at the exact same point as the ancient myth, but we got there on our own terms. So, the next time you struggle to learn a new language, or find yourself lost in translation, do not look at it as a curse. Look at those barriers as a shield. They are the very things that protect our individuality, our creativity, and our freedom from the crushing weight of absolute conformity. What do you think? Would you trade our chaotic, diverse world for the perfect, terrifying unity of a completed tower? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to keep exploring the fascinating what ifs of our past, make sure to subscribe. The story of humanity is full of turning points, and we are just getting started.